President Trump with reporters aboard Air Force One as he flew to Hanoi, Vietnam, on Saturday. Doug MillsThe, New York Times. Danang, Vietnam. President Trump said on Saturday that he believed President Vladimir V. Putin was sincere in his repeated denials of Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential elections. He also declared that investigations into whether his campaign had colluded with Moscow were a politically motivated hit job that was hindering cooperation with Russia on life or death issues. Mr. Trump told reporters traveling with him after a series of talks with Mr. Putin on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit meeting in Vietnam, "Every time he sees me he says, I didn't do that, and I really believe that when he tells me that, he means it. He says, I didn't do that. I think he is very insulted by it, which is not a good thing for our country." Mr. Trump did not answer a direct question about whether he believed Mr. Putin's denials, which contradict the assessment of American intelligence agencies that the Russian president had directed an elaborate effort to interfere in the vote. Mr. Trump also said that the continued focus on whether his campaign aides had worked with Russian operatives to sway the election was souring Washington's relationship with Moscow and was blocking progress on vital security issues, such as confronting the nuclear threat from North Korea and ending the Syrian civil war. "Having a good relationship with Russia is a great thing," Mr. Trump said. "This artificial democratic hit job gets in the way, and that's a shame, because people will." The allegations of collusion are the subject of an investigation by the special counsel Robert S. Mueller III, as well as multiple congressional inquiries. Mr. Trump's comments about the Russian president and his warning about deteriorating Moscow ties came during the APEC conference here in Danang, Vietnam, where the White House steered clear of a formal meeting between the two men, but he and Mr. Putin did confer briefly. The small group of reporters who travel with Mr. Trump were barred from covering his activities for most of Saturday, leaving them in the dark about the two presidents' interactions. The Kremlin later released a statement saying that the leaders had met and struck an agreement on Syria. Mr. Trump then told reporters that he had had 2 or 3 brief conversations with Mr. Putin, mostly about Syria. When pressed about whether election meddling had come up in their discussions, Mr. Trump said, "I just asked him again. He said he absolutely did not meddle in our election. He did not do what they are saying he did." The United States and Russia later issued a joint statement on Syria that reaffirmed previous commitments to defeat the Islamic State and to untangle conflicts between their forces on the Syrian battlefield. It said that Mr. Trump believed he had a good meeting with Mr. Putin on joint efforts that, once in place, would save thousands of lives.